Imagine clicking on a trailer in 2003. The screen fades up on a grainy, alternate history documentary. You're told that the Soviet Union didn't collapse. Instead, they ended World War II by dropping the atomic bomb on Berlin. They expanded their empire across Europe, swallowed South America, and quietly surrounded the United States. Then the camera cuts to a foggy morning in New York City. The Statue of Liberty is shrouded in mist, and suddenly the sky fills with Soviet Hind helicopters. Paratroopers drop onto the pavement. Tanks roll down Broadway. And just like that, the American dream is placed under military occupation. This is how Freedom Fighters hooks you. It doesn't waste 30 minutes explaining the geopolitical intricacies of its world. It throws you right into the deep end. But you aren't playing as some elite Navy SEAL who happened to be on vacation. You play as Chris Stone, a regular, everyday Brooklyn plumber. You're holding a wrench, you're trying to fix a client's pipes, and within 5 minutes, Soviet soldiers break through the door, kidnap your brother, and force you to sprint into the sewers just to stay alive. Developed by IO Interactive and published by EA back in 2003, Freedom Fighters became an instant cult classic. For nearly 2 decades, it was a ghost, trapped in a digital wasteland of expired licensing rights. But now that it's back on modern storefronts, it's time to ask the real question. Does this game actually hold up as a masterpiece? Or are we just drowning in early 2000s nostalgia? Grab your gear because we're going deep into the trenches of occupied New York to find out. What makes the narrative of Freedom Fighters so incredibly satisfying is how it handles the evolution of its main character. Chris Stone doesn't start the game as a badass. He learns to be one out of sheer survival. The game structures this visually and mechanically in a way that modern titles completely ignore. At the start of the campaign, Chris is wearing a clean blue worker's jumpsuit. He looks out of place holding a pistol, his posture is a little stiff, and he's clean-shaven. But as the months pass and the rebellion grows, Chris literally transforms before your eyes. His clothes get torn and replaced with tactical gear. He grows a rugged, battle-hardened beard. His voice deepens, and the way he carries himself changes. By the final act, he looks like a man who has looked the Empire in the eye and didn't blink. The game matches this vibe with brilliant world-building, mostly delivered through SAFN, the Soviet Armed Forces Network. Between missions, you watch propaganda broadcasts anchored by Tatiana Kempinski, a fiercely loyal Soviet journalist. At first, she dismisses you and your friends as petty criminals and hooligans. But as you start blowing up bridges, reclaiming warehouses, and raising the American flag over government buildings, her broadcasts become increasingly panicked. You can see the cracks forming in the Soviet propaganda machine in real time. It's a fantastic, cinematic storytelling device that makes your victories feel like they actually matter to the world outside your immediate screen. Now, let's talk about the real reason Freedom Fighters is legendary: the recruit and command system. If you played tactical shooters in the early 2000s, you know how painful AI squad mates usually were. You'd have to open a radial menu, select a specific formation, assign a specific target, and then watch in horror as your teammate walked directly into a wall or stood out in the open eating sniper fire. It was frustrating, clunky, and entirely broke the pacing of an action game. In Freedom Fighters, they mapped your entire squad command structure to just 3 simple buttons. That's it. No complicated submenus, no micromanagement. You tap a button, and the AI handles the rest with shocking intelligence. They will automatically seek out nearby cover, return fire dynamically, and use their weapons effectively. But you don't just get an army handed to you on a silver platter, you have to earn it through the game's charisma system. Every time that meter hits a new milestone, you unlock another squad slot. You start off as a lone wolf, then you can recruit 2 guys from the streets, then 4, then 8. By the time you reach the climax of the game, you are leading a massive 12-person guerrilla strike force through the snow-laden streets of Manhattan. The feeling of progression here is pure dopamine. You go from hiding in corners and taking pot shots with a revolver to commanding an entire platoon. You can stand on a balcony, press the attack button, and watch 12 of your fighters aggressively push down an avenue. laying down suppressive fire while you sneak around the back with a shotgun to clean up the remnants. It feels fast, chaotic, and incredibly empowering. The brilliance of Freedom Fighters doesn't stop at its combat. It's baked entirely into the level design. The game's campaign is broken down into distinct chapters, with each chapter representing a specific district of New York. Within that district, you are given a choice of 3 or 4 different maps to tackle, and you can play them in any order you want. But these maps don't exist in a vacuum. What you do in one level directly alters the reality of another. Let's look at a prime example from middle of the game. You need to assault a heavily fortified Soviet fire station to rescue a group of resistance prisoners. The problem? There is a massive attack helicopter patrolling the area, and the moment you step foot on the street, it shreds your squad to pieces. Instead of throwing yourself into a meat grinder, you can choose to retreat to the sewers and load into a completely different map, a nearby harbor facility. Deep inside that harbor is a Soviet helipad. If you fight your way to that pad, plant C4, and blow it sky high, you can then reload back into the fire station level. When you return, you'll look up at the sky and notice something beautiful. The helicopter is completely gone. The game is packed with these kinds of tactical intersections. Need to take a post office, but the enemy keeps sending endless waves of reinforcements across a nearby bridge? Go to the bridge level first, blow the support beams, and suddenly the post office is cut off from backup. This creates a brilliant macro strategy layer that makes you feel like an actual guerrilla commander, systematically dismantling an occupying army's logistics network. We cannot talk about the timeless nature of this game without dedicating a massive spotlight to its soundtrack. I.O. Interactive brought on composer Jesper Kyd, the maestro who would go on to score early Assassin's Creed games and the Hitman series, and he delivered what is widely considered one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time. Instead of going for generic, Hollywood-style orchestral swells, Kyd traveled to Europe and recorded the Hungarian radio choir. He took those massive, booming, operatic choral arrangements and layered them over heavy, industrial, electronic techno beats. The result is an auditory masterpiece. The music perfectly mirrors the clashing ideologies of the game. The synthesizer beats represent the gritty, street-level urgency of the American resistance, while the towering, sweeping choral vocals evoke the immense oppressive weight of the Soviet military machine. When you are pinned down behind a concrete barrier, your health bar is flashing red. Your squad is screaming for help, and the music suddenly swells with this epic, tragic, Russian-style choir as you make a desperate dash to revive a teammate. It gives you literal goosebumps. The soundtrack elevates Freedom Fighters from a fun B-movie action game into something that feels genuinely operatic and grand in scale. Let's be completely objective for a minute. If you boot this game up on PC today, you are going to see some wrinkles. This is a game from 2003, and it wears its age on its sleeve. Character models are incredibly blocky. Faces are practically static textures, and the color palette leans heavily into the drab grays, browns, and blues of the early PS2 era. Gunplay is distinctly arcadey. There is no aiming down sights, like in modern first-person shooters. Weapons lack the heavy, physics-based recoil we're used to today. The game uses a retro checkpoint system tied to sewer manholes. If you die before reaching a manhole or clearing the zone, you can lose a solid chunk of progress, which might annoy modern players used to aggressive autosaving. But here is the absolute magic of Freedom Fighters. Within 5 minutes of picking up the controller, none of those flaws matter. Because the game was made in an era before live service models, bloated open-world checklists, and endless, unskippable cutscenes, the pacing is absolutely relentless. There are no crafting mechanics, no skill trees to agonize over, and no microtransactions. It is just pure, unadulterated gameplay design focused entirely on making sure the player is having fun from the moment they press start to the moment the credits roll. Playing Freedom Fighters today leaves you with a distinct sense of melancholy, because it reminds us of a time when developers were willing to take massive, creative risks on mid-budget titles. It is a tragedy that we never got a Freedom Fighters 2. IO Interactive eventually moved on to create Kane and Lynch, which borrowed some of the squad mechanics but lacked the charm. And the rights to the franchise bounced around for years before landing back with IO as an independent studio. But even as a standalone singular piece of gaming history, Freedom Fighters stands tall. It took complex design philosophies, like non-linear stage progression and dynamic AI management, and streamlined them into an experience that anyone could understand and enjoy. If you are looking for a game that respects your time, offers an incredible atmosphere, boasts a legendary soundtrack, and features squad mechanics that still put some multi-million-dollar modern titles to shame, do not sleep on this game. Freedom Fighters isn't just a relic of the past. It's a masterclass in game design that is absolutely worth playing today. Put on your winter coat, rally the neighborhood, and go take New York back. But now I want to turn the mic over to you. Did you play Freedom Fighters back in the day on the PS2 or the original Xbox? Or are you looking at this right now thinking, how on earth did I miss out on this gem? If you've played it, what was your favorite mission? Was it storming the TV station, or did you, like me, just spend 10 minutes standing in a corner listening to Jesper Kyd's soundtrack? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one, and I love talking retro gaming with you guys. If this trip down memory lane gave you a massive hit of 2000s nostalgia, or if you just appreciate a game that doesn't try to sell you battle passes and skins, do me a massive favor and smash that like button. It really helps battle the YouTube algorithm and gets videos like this in front of more people who love classic gaming. If you want more deep dives, reviews, and retrospective looks at the games that shaped our childhoods, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, pick up your wrench, rally your squad, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.